so I've sent out the message and told the kids here and told these kids who we are very, very grateful to them for coming back and sharing probably some of the last hours of their winter break, at least for a few of them, sharing that time with us. So we're really glad to have them here. And I've told all of you that this is going to be very informal, and it is. And we want this to be an opportunity for them to say things that they think you might want to know, and for you to ask questions that you would like to have open and honest answers to. I was asked in an email by one student who ended up not being able to be here tonight if everything that was said had to be positive. Well, I sat at that keyboard for a long time thinking, yes, but I said, you know, it needs to be honest and open and real, and that's what we hope for. So hopefully it's going to be a night that's going to be very informative for you guys. And we are going to start, I told them I'm not going to be up here the whole time. We're going to go down the road twice. And the first time through, I'm going to just ask them to introduce themselves, tell you when they graduated, what year they graduated from Signal Mountain, and where they're in school, and maybe tell you something they've got on their horizon, like if they've chosen a major, or a couple of classes they'll be taking this semester, or if they've got something big and new and interesting coming up in their college experience. So we'll start that way, then we'll go down the road one more time, and then we'll turn it over to you guys. So, Josh.
I'm Josh Bennett. I graduated last year, and I'm a freshman at Dickinson College, and I'm on track for a triple major in theater, music, and political science.
I'm not that interesting. I'm Jason Roth, and I graduated also last year in class of 2016 with Josh. I'm at Virginia Tech, and I'm planning on majoring in mechanical engineering.
I'm Robert Stills. I graduated in 2015, so 2 years ago. I'm at Berry College, and I am a pre-veterinary medicine major with minors in chemistry and Spanish. And yeah, that's about it.
I'm Sarah Baxley. I also graduated in 2015, and I'm at Lipscomb University in Nashville, and I'm a music major on a pre-med track.
I'm Lorna Vaughn. I graduated 2 years ago as well. I'm at Emmanuel College in Boston, and I'm an elementary ed major with a minor in history.
I'm Sheehan McFadden. I use she, her, hers pronouns. I'm at Tulane University. I graduated in 2014. 2014, and I'm an anthropology and philosophy major with a Spanish and religious studies minor with the intent to become a professor in anthropology.
I'm Jonathan Shander. I'm 2014 class. I do film at American University, and I just came back from a study abroad session in Prague of the Czech Republic.
Hi, I'm Mary Taylor Geltz, and I'm also class of 2014, and I go to Dickinson College. And I'm currently a junior, and I'm a psychology major, and then I just got back from England, and I'm going back to England in about a week. So.
Okay. And so our next trip down the road, I just would like them to tell you a kind of any summary that has popped into their head about how the IB program here has impacted their college education.
Okay. The biggest thing for me was the writing skills that we learned through IB. I was one of just a handful of students chosen from my year to be in the writing center, which I had to turn down because I'd rather work in the scene shop, but you know, whatever. And just being able to write a 3,000-word paper in a night, it's very helpful.
I'm gonna have to go with like study habits, and I had my senior year, my junior year like really busy. I did soccer throughout, played club and through my high school, and did a bunch of other clubs here. And like just staying on top of everything is like what helped. Like even though like we were doing a bunch of hard stuff, and like especially through my first semester, like I always felt like it was never like that much, even though it was like there's like some kids kind of freaking out like on my hall. I was just like, I mean, it's a lot, but like I'm gonna get through it.
Okay, yeah, I'm kind of the same way. Study habits definitely were probably the best thing about IB. And then for me personally, Spanish really helped me because even though I'm a sophomore, I'll be done with my minor in Spanish after this semester because of IB.
Something that really helped me from IB is that I came into college with a lot of credits, so I was able to major in something that wasn't just a science major, but still stay on track to go to medical school?
It really helped me because I got a lot of credits that I would have had to take for my major anyways. I got my lit credit and my history credit, and I've actually decided to minor in history, and so that helped me take like more advanced history courses. And then having a background in like the other areas that are more in depth, it helped me when I had to, like my SLs I didn't get credit for, but I was really prepared to take my my courses in college that were similar to the SL courses.
I'm gonna echo writing and like time management. So for writing, the extended essay was like the best preparation for term papers ever. My first semester, I had a 3,000-word research paper in my ethics class and managed to do that in about 48 hours. It's not a fun 48 hours, but it happened. And then like study habits and time management, I am like hyper involved. I like am on student government and do basically everything that you could ever expect of a student and still somehow manage to do well in courses. And a lot of that I credit to IB.
I'd say growing up in a small southern town, you can feel a little bit overwhelmed when you try to study in a different place like DC or the Czech Republic. But the International Baccalaureate and its international focus really helped me be prepared to sort of encounter people of different cultures and faiths and different backgrounds, and I think that was probably the biggest help it gave to me.
Right, yeah, that's pretty much what I was going to say too, is that we growing up in such a community that doesn't have necessarily, there's a lack of diversity that when you leave here, as everybody will who's in the IB program, that it's really helpful to have had this education that's been approached with so many different perspectives that I don't think we would have gotten if we weren't in the IB program and if we were just taking standard classes. So for me, that's why I chose my college, because I knew I wanted to study abroad, and I don't think that I would have had that need to study abroad if I wasn't in the IB program, personally.
Okay, so we will open it up to you guys to ask questions. We won't necessarily go down the road each time. And you guys up here, if you feel confident answering a question, jump in and answer. And so you may get an answer from one of them, you may get an answer from 4 of them, you may get an answer from all of them. If you want to single somebody out and ask a particular student, that'd be fine too. Like I said, we want this to be informal and informative. And if you guys along the way think of something you want to throw in that's off topic from a question, go ahead. So, we got a question to start?
Are you all full IB graduates, or
I think so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
okay? Do you see? Do you think that if you were not a full IB graduate, you would still get out of it what some of the things that y'all listed?
Well, in order to do the extended essay, you have to be a full IB DP program, like,
Candidate.
Yeah.
so you like, in order to get the benefit, a lot of the benefits I saw out of it, I had to be a full IB student because the extended essay was one of the major things.
So you have to be full IB to do
like
the,
submit it and
to
do it
the
like all the way through.
extended essay.
It's definitely, you get out what you put in. I think you have to really be determined to
Committed
get out
to-
as much as you can from it if you really want to benefit from it.
I had several friends who were partial IB, and I felt like the way that IB is organized is a lot better when you do full IB because all the IB teachers are talking and they know like not to plan like 4 papers due in the same week. You know, they talk all the time and they're always coordinating and like we read books in English that coordinate with history, you know, but then I had friends who did partial IB and they were taking, you know, maybe AP courses or something else instead, and, you know, there were a lot of clashes with scheduling and things, and, you know, if you're going to take advanced placement courses, you might as well take the full IB and have it really coordinated. I think the testing is better than when I took AP classes sophomore year, so.
But if you decide that partial IB is better for you or for your student, I think any IB course you take here, when you take that subject again, or if you take that subject again in college, you will be much better prepared. I can say that every college class I've taken that I took as an IB student as well has been much easier than it would have been.
A couple of you talked about study habits and how IB helped your study habits. How could you describe like what your study habits were prior, or how it helped you a little more in depth?
I can. So for me, beforehand, I didn't really have to study because even though I was taking honors classes and not a light load by any stretch of the imagination, I also didn't find them particularly hard. So when I got into IB, that was a little bit more of a okay, you have to buckle down and get into this, which was really helpful going into college, because there have been classes where it's okay, buckle in, you're going for it. And at the same time, the CAS, Community Action and Service, those requirements of going out and doing things beyond just schoolwork had prepared me and made me able to be involved in other organizations on campus. So I already knew how to balance CAS and schoolwork and home life. It wasn't just, there were specific aspects of the program that translated really well into.
Right, okay, thank you.
For me, I pretty much saw it as you learn early on that you're not gonna be able to learn everything in one night. And that's it's better for you to learn it junior year or senior year than freshman year of college. And that's what I saw a lot of the kids.
So you kind of had to figure that out yourself.
Yeah, and I felt that's what kind of, I don't know about you guys for your freshman year, but a lot of the kids on my hall around week 9 or 10 after they had failed a few tests were learning that what I was doing in high school, the classic student, I learn everything in the night, study it cram, isn't going to work. And you have to spread it out and kind of organize how you're going to do it. Okay, I have 30 minutes here, I'm going to maybe practice my polyatomic ions for chemistry, stuff like that.
Great, thank you.
Do you feel like getting the IB course helped you get in the colleges you're in? Do you think possibly being in IB, I've heard that IB is very challenging, that it can affect your GPA. Do you feel like it was beneficial for you in the schools you got in?
I'd say so. I think it's definitely, especially if you get the diploma, it's just something that you can really kind of mention, and everyone who knows what it is pretty, they're interested. They know kind of what you had to go through, and they respect it. And if you're considering applying to schools that are in different countries, IB is necessary. They won't accept you if you don't have an IB diploma or a score that is at a certain point. So it's definitely, it opens your options up so much more than just regular courses.
Yeah, and I think that every admissions officer that I've ever talked to, not just at the school that I go to, but on every college tour that I went on, they said that they want to see the students who are striving to take the hardest classes that they can, who are challenging themselves. And I think that that really stands out. So even if your GPA isn't necessarily as high as it would be if you'd gotten all 99s and 100s taking standard courses, it really makes a difference, I think, to the colleges that you've tried to take the hardest classes that were available to you.
Also, I found that GPAs, while they're important and they do some preliminary, weeding out of some candidates, they really care about more of what you do outside of school and what essays you submit and stuff. So having a really good background in writing essays, but then also having because you do have to do 150 hours of community action service. You do have a lot to put on your application of community service, or if you were in band, that counts, activities. There's a lot of stuff you can put on your college essay that, I don't know, I put my extended essay as part of my application, and, I ended up getting an A from IB on it, and that's amazing. It's GPA gets you so far, but, there's more of a personality growth that happens through IB that colleges really value, because they want students who will last in college versus students who got a 4.0 doing standard courses.
And also from the fiscal perspective, I have a pretty prestigious scholarship at my university, and 3 of the 15 people who have this scholarship, at least 3, there might be 4, did IB, and did full IB, and that's like pretty intense considering the fact that something like 5 to 10% of the school did IB. So like also considering when you go into like financial aid and scholarship considerations, they heavily consider the rigor of your classes.
I think in general too, IB, like college admissions, just seeing that you did it, not necessarily that you did well or even got the diploma, but just seeing that you attempted it is a good sign for them. I have the unique position of working in the registrar's office at Berry College, and so when I open up a student's record, I can see the admissions comments on their file that each admissions counselor wrote. And anytime a student has done IB, that has been one of the biggest things they've talked about in those admissions comments, so they definitely love to see it.
And also when submitting essays, when I went to visit my current college, I met with the head of one of my majors departments, and showing him the coursework that I did through IB Theater really helped me, because not many kids get to do like a 3,000-word essay, just pure research, and also inserting in their own thoughts on that based on that research. Developing the way that IB develops your thought process through TOK and just through being able to hash out your own ideas and subfields that you're interested in, which you'll probably ultimately study in college. It just like, it opens up a new world and like allows you to really explore that I don't think that many other academic courses would allow you to do.
Can I ask a question to piggyback off of what you said about the IB course? You said there were some commentary for the students in there. I forget what you called it, but what about AP? If someone took a full load of AP versus did the IB, would there be a differentiation between those two students?
I think definitely, at least from an admissions comment standard, AP is a lot more common, at least in the United States, so we see that a lot more. So when it comes down to that, they're definitely looking a lot more at what you scored. They want to see that you got a 5 on your AP test, but with IB, just the fact that you're doing it and that it's, I think in general, college is considered a somewhat harder program to get through, just because of everything you have to do on top of the academics, that they still like to see it probably slightly more.
Also, this school doesn't offer full AP, so if you don't take a full load of AP instead of the IB, it's not comparable. So.
Very true.
Do you feel like in deciding to do the DP program that as a student and as a young adult that you missed out on anything because of the DP program?
Like, no.
No. Yeah.
We were still able to do like extracurricular activity, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah.
We all 3 of us actually did theater. Me and Mary Taylor acted in a few of the big performances. It wasn't as easy as it would have been, but I think the rigorous nature of it was, it helped prepare us for what it would be like in college when you want to be, in an organization, or you want to be with a group of friends, or you want to do a club activity, but you still have to study. I'd say, if anything, it sort of allowed me to be sort of liberated in college a little bit more than I would have been had I not taken it.
And it really does simulate like what you're going to experience in college. I mean, I've taken anywhere between 15 and 19 credit hours for every semester I've been in college, and still managed to be officers in like 4 or 5 clubs, start a couple of organizations, so on and so forth. So like I was really prepared because I had this like history of essentially 15 to 19 credit hours in high school.
Yeah, I did the same. I worked 26 hours a week, and I have 20 hours of credits every semester, and I'm still part of 2 clubs. And I went to DC this past semester, and I'm going to Philadelphia this coming semester. I still get to do all that, and I found a good way to balance it, because I did it all in high school. I did several clubs, and I don't live up here, so I had to commute up the mountain, and I still managed to do everything. and I got the diploma. And so I think you don't miss out on much if you do the diploma. In fact, you're with a group of people who are all experiencing the same thing.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, coming from like a little bit of a different perspective, I played, like this is kind of piggybacking off that question, I played soccer throughout high school. I played for the school all 4 years, and I played on a club team for all 4 years. And my junior and senior year, we were like 4th or 5th in the state, which is pretty good. And so we practiced like 4 or 5 times a week, and we like traveled and played, and I never felt like I was missing out. Like I still had time to hang out with my friends and do things I wanted.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's great to see you all. Y'all look good. It's been a few years. That looks great. Some of us are going through it now with some juniors, and one of the things we're starting to see, and maybe this is just a show of hands, did your GPAs go up when you were in the IB Diploma Program? With the plus
stay the
5
same.
points?
Stay the same. Yeah.
Okay, I don't hear of anybody really going down.
Yeah.
And I think parents, that's really good to know. And you probably need to find out more why, but a lot of it's because they get plus 5.
Yeah, at the end of it, you get plus 5 to every score you get. So at the end of every semester, you get an extra 5 points. And so I remember in my year, there were several of us that ended with cumulative point averages above 100. That is a thing that can happen. And colleges recalculate your GPA based on that point average. And so you can end up way ahead of other people as well.
And I just had a quick question about what was your take on theory of knowledge? You know, that's just a different animal. Ms. Tharp is awesome. I've had the luxury to sub for her 1 or 2 times. I think it's great. But, you know, now that you're out, what is it? What did it do for you? Because it is something unique just to the diploma program, I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, we had a few of us had Mr. Dobler up there for theory of knowledge. And I have to say, I've read reports, actually, when kids study philosophy, it actually improves their scores in language and reading and math and science and things you wouldn't expect it to affect. I think theory of knowledge, a lot of kids would say oh man, I got theory of knowledge today, and it's we're going to have to talk about, something, that's going to blow my mind a little. It wasn't even that, but people liked to complain about it a little bit, but at the same time, they really loved the class because it was very interesting, and it was a discussion. Unlike so many of the other classes, it was sort of you got to really think about what you were talking about and what it meant.
Yeah, I think the seminar basis of the class was actually really comparable to a lot of the college courses that I'm taking, because a lot of the classes in IB are, especially theory of knowledge, was mostly seminar based, and it wasn't a lecture really. And I think that is actually, looking back, that's pretty similar to how a lot of my classes are right now that I'm taking.
Mm-hmm. I think it also exposes you to things that you don't normally get to think about. So as an anthropology and philosophy major, I knew that was what I wanted to do, but a lot of the students going into that class had never thought about epistemology and how we gain knowledge and what that means and what it looks like, or how different epistemology is across different cultures. And so I thought that seeing a lot of my classmates come out of that was really cool, because it was you would every once in a while get somebody say, oh, but here they do this, which was just really eye-opening.
Yeah, sorry. I think that something else that was really cool for me to see was that it exposes that a lot of people in your class and a lot of people you've been friends with, you all have different opinions on lots of different things, and it's really cool to get to have that experience then of realizing, oh, there's so many people that don't think the same thing that I do, and being able to have a controlled and polite discussion about all of it without having to have a real argument with anyone, and being able to understand that there are people that don't believe the same thing that you do, and understanding that that's okay, and understanding where people are coming from and why people believe what they believe.
I agree with Sarah. I think definitely Berry College is a liberal arts school, so on that campus we have people from all walks of life, all different perspectives. Theory of knowledge was almost like a simulation of what I was going to experience socially in college, so very helpful.
My first semester of college, I took classes that I thought there were some gen eds. I go to a Catholic school, so we had to take some religion gen eds as well. And I took some gen eds, and I took some classes that I thought I should get out of the way before I forget stuff from IB or something. I took a chemistry class. I took philosophy, a religion course. I took I can't even remember the fourth and fifth class. But I felt like a lot of them were very easy, so much easier after IB. Like thinking about other religions' perspective, I just had to write a 14-page paper on a religion comparing Islam and Christianity's views on gender equality. It was crazy. I wrote it. It was for my final for that class, and then we went to a mosque and had chai lattes, and it was just it's just such a broadening experience. Learning about things in kind of a controlled environment, and then actually experiencing it when you go to college it's neat.
And also having analytical tools that you don't really get taught. So being able to come out of a class, analyze not only what you're being taught, but also how you're being taught it. So in a lot of my anthropology classes, we're looking at theory, theory of cities and theory of tactics and strategy and all of these different things. But we're also able to talk about how that theory was formed and whether it's applicable cross-culturally or just in the specific instance. So having those tools of analysis, not only of the subject material, but what is being presented via the subject material is really really helpful. Meta-analysis, I think that's the word.
I think a lot of times parents get concerned about spending a lot of money in college and looking for advantages in terms of getting some credits out of the way. How did you all do with that in college?
Well, I'm graduating a semester early. I came in with 12 credits, and that was just my HL. So if you go to a school that maybe also takes standard level courses as well, the standard level IB courses, you could come in with maybe 24 credits or 36 or something of that number. So that's one less semester of loans and.
I will say credit-wise, AP is a better option there because you take classes across however many semesters you're taking APs versus just your 5-6 classes that you end up with. I went into college with 8 credits from IB. That was fun. But also, I found out later that I could have tested out of a lot of classes, which I didn't do because nobody told me that. But ask, because you might be able to test out of classes that you didn't get credit for. I could have tested out of Calculus 1 because I took SL Math, and nobody takes credit for SL Math. But I knew all the information, and so I could have tested out of it. So it's not just what they accept, it's also what you know coming out of it and whether you can test out of them.
Yeah, and I think that some schools definitely, IB is newer, and so sometimes you have to work for your credits, because I only came in, I think, with maybe 15, but by the end of the first semester I had 30 credits for my IB classes. So a lot of it's just finding the classes that the school thinks are comparable to the IB class that you took and being able to get credit for that. So I got to skip a lot of my general education classes.
Yeah. And also, sorry, having the history of taking IB is really important because then you can load on more credit hours. So my first semester I took 19 credit hours, which is the max that my school allows you to take. And all of the rest of my classmates were taking 12 to 15, and so I already took I was already ahead of class. So you can usually load in more credits because you already have what it means to be really busy with schoolwork.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got a lot of my gen ed credits out of the way, and that's one of the reasons why I'm able to do a whole year abroad, is because I didn't have to do those gen ed credits because I already had them. So I had the free space to be able to go abroad and just take classes in my major in England for a whole year.
I think there's definitely a fear that since IB is more rare in the United States, that colleges maybe won't give you as much credit or won't take SLs or anything, but I've actually found that's not the case. Barry normally only awards credits if you score a 5 or higher on IB for an HL course, but when I got my results back, I actually petitioned 2 departments at Barry, and the history department and the music department, for credit anyway. Music department gave me credit for an SL course, so I'm the first student at Barry to get credit for SL IB work. History, unfortunately, still did not. Oh well. But then even if you can't petition for credit, like foreign language, Spanish, I was able to skip all of the 100 and 200 level classes and start at 300 level Spanish, all because of IB Spanish. So I'm getting my minor in 12 credit hours versus the normal like 20, 21 or 22.
And again, if you're considering going to a school abroad, which a lot of people don't, but I think it's a good idea, because a lot of them will just pay for your tuition and you won't have to pay anything, especially in Germany. If they will only really take IB credit. So AP it has its uses there from what I hear, but it's nothing compared to what IB will do.
I will say, kind of like encourage your student to like look at maybe some schools they're thinking about and pick your HLs based off that, because I kind of got messed up with English. So I got a 6 on my English, which didn't get me out of any English classes because Virginia Tech decided they weren't going to do the credit thing for that. So I got out of first semester English with my AP score, but I got nothing, even though I almost got a perfect score in English. And I could have easily gotten all my English done with if I had just taken HL and so just kind of look ahead.
My thing is I take the HLs that you want to take as well, because I took English, art, and history for HL. You have to take history. I loved it. But if I had taken HL chemistry, I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much. I wouldn't have enjoyed my IB experience, and I wouldn't have got the diploma, because you have to get a certain number of credits in points in your HL classes. So, there's one thing to looking ahead. I know some people, Ben Gruber went to MIT, but he had to take a certain number of science, he had to take he had to look at the courses ahead of time and really plan what courses to take to get into MIT. But, if I'm an education major, I got out of some classes for my major, but a lot of some like my math classes and stuff, I have specific math classes I have to take. So, it can vary a little bit. So depending on what you want to do, but definitely take courses you're interested in for HL is what I think.
And you can always petition for them. I know a lot of colleges won't even give you that as an option. I was saying, if you have a dream school, you already know where you want to go, and maybe they don't give you credit for any IB or only a few IB courses, go to the department chairs, go to the registrar, provost, academic services, whatever. Fight for what you deserve. If you scored that 5 in an HL IB course, fight to get credit, because sometimes a professor will respect that, and they will decide, oh, well, this person clearly did all the work, and they're showing me that they actually want credit. They're not just expecting me to hand it to them. They're working for it. So petitioning does work.
That brings up a really good point. Hearing that you went and advocated for yourself, do you think that's something that the DP program gave you all confidence to do? Or is that something you already kind of had inside you, or do you feel like it really kind of upped it? Like, okay, I feel good going and talking to this professor. I'm going to go advocate. I'm going to go and fight for this credit. Is that something you feel like was a benefit?
Definitely. I think, especially with theory of knowledge, being a seminar-based, you're encouraged to just say what you're thinking, talk out loud, in that class. And so I feel like for me, that did give me more of a self-confidence boost to be able to go. In my case, I went to the provost at my school and talked to him about, well, I made the score, but I didn't get any credit based on the current grading system for which you all use for IB, so how can I go ahead and try to request credit anyway? And then he directed me who I needed to talk to, and I talked to the department chairs over music and history and had meetings with them. So, definitely.
And I think that especially by the time that you've given presentations in another language, it's a lot easier to go try to talk to people in your own language and just say, here's what I'm thinking, here's what I want, and not be worried about going to talk to a professor or anything like that, especially in big classes. It's not as intimidating.
Yeah, I have friends who maybe didn't get a grade they would like, and I'm like, well, just go talk to them, so no, you do better the next time. And because that's a lot of IB is you submit drafts of things, maybe you can resubmit it and get just a little more partial credit on it, and I'm just go talk to them. They're like, no, I don't want to, and I'm like, do it, because it could improve your grade. Next semester it won't matter. You can't do anything. It doesn't matter when you graduate. Your GPA is not where you want it because you didn't fight that moment.
Yeah. This semester I got a grade moved up from a 50 to a 93 just because I was told to be honest, and so it's an A now. But I printed out it was like a paper or like a 3-page thing, and I brought it in and this is why, this is what I thought the assignment was, and I talked to him. He was like, I completely understand. I'm gonna move it up, and I just had the confidence, and it wasn't I wasn't sweating before I went in. I just this is what I think, and so that's how that went out. I haven't told my mom that.
Sorry, I don't have a question. I was going to tell, having been through this as a parent 3 years ago, I learned a couple of things that I thought I would share with parents who have kids in this program. One, I would suggest focusing less on the credit part, because when you do apply, we visited a lot of, New England schools, private schools, and all of them across the board said they gave more attention to IB than AP. I've never been and we've visited how many, 20 schools? Every single admissions director said they held IB at a higher standard than AP. But also, even though she placed out of a lot of classes, we want her to have a 4-year experience at college. Being able to place out made her be able to spend a year abroad. So it's not so much, for some of us, I know it's expensive, but we don't want to get her out as quickly as possible. This is 4 years of education. So I just wanted to bring that up, that there's other ways to look at it for sure.
And you also don't know if you have the diploma when you put the deposit in, you say you're going to go to a school, you find out 2 months later, if you're going to get the diploma. You don't know if you're going to get credits for it. You don't know your scores. You know how you can kind of gauge how well you did on the test, maybe. If you really bombed it, if you did really well. But the schools won't know if you got the diploma after you've been accepted, because you find out around March or so, and then May is when you put your deposit down. June or July is when you get your scores back. So, they don't. You can get some credits if you get, some good scores, but, they already know you put in so much work, and they're valuing your time and effort and all the things you put into it first. And then scores are great, but they don't know that. And some schools will say, they want your scores submitted to them, and, if you're on a wait list or something. But for the most part, I don't know. I think they valued my effort first.
That's definitely true. I was moved into Barry when I got my scores back. I was sitting at my job in the registrar's office when I opened it for the first time to see if I got the diploma or not.
And also, again, from the fiscal perspective, scholarships and looking at merit scholarships is really important, because they're beyond your GPA at this point. They use the GPA to filter everything out, but then they're looking at your essays, your rigor. They're looking at the more intangible things. And so having IB, I think, really helped me get my scholarship, which
100% same. I really believe that if I had not done IB, I would not have gotten the scholarship that I got. And then I wouldn't have been able to go to the school that I'm going to. So I would have probably been somewhere completely different if I hadn't done IB, because I got almost a full ride to my school that I'm going to right now. So.
Do you all think that the group projects and the collaboration and working with your, in a cohort with your peers in your IB classes helped you prepare you for that similar type of work that you probably encountered in college?
Yes, 100%. I've done so many group projects, so many group projects. And if I hadn't done that in IB, I think I would have been really overwhelmed in college, just because, at least for me, because I go to a small liberal arts school, the class sizes are small. There's so many group projects and seminar-based classes and presentations with other people, and you have to know how to work with other people and collaborate. And I really did learn that, I think, in a lot of my classes that I took in high school because of IB. So.
And then I'll just ask another one. I know that the commitment to continue foreign language through your senior year can be challenging. And obviously you do that as IB students. How did you think that helped you maybe place out of classes in college or continue to advance your interest in language?
I'm going to Spain next semester, and I'm direct enrolling in a university there. So like I'll be taking all of my classes in Spanish with Spanish students, and that probably wouldn't have been possible. Actually, it definitely wouldn't have been possible if I didn't continue like languages. So like you get really cool experiences out of it.
Yeah.
Definitely. I'm completing a minor in half the time because of IB Spanish. And also it's allowed me, because IB's world interest as a whole, I'm actually studying abroad in Thailand this coming summer too, and so I'll be able to start learning basic Thai while I'm over there. Yeah.
I've actually met recently, I have two really good friends. One's my coworker, and they both did IB, but one in Denver, Colorado, and one in Mexico City in Mexico. And we were comparing test answers because we had the same questions because we did it the same year, which was really interesting. But we weren't supposed to talk about it. This
is being livecast.
Oh no, they'll take it away from me. It's been 2 years. But it's just really interesting. Like I've talked to her in Spanish, which is kind of cool. I didn't think I would be. I did SL Spanish, and I can converse with her and her mom, and I'm actually going to try to go to Mexico this summer and visit her and try to just do some immersion and just practice, and because I'm not continuing with Spanish, but I want to keep practicing it and keep that skill. I'm not keeping it actively, but like at least being able to talk to people and just converse. I'm in Boston, so I'm in my coffee shop, and I'm like hearing like so many languages, and it's just so neat experience to like I can like kind of point languages, and I can hear one of my friend Carlos. He's from Puerto Rico, and I can just like hear him on the phone with his mom, and I kind of know what he's talking about, and feel like a spy a little bit. But yeah, so.
And I mean, honestly, once you accept the fact that you're going to keep taking languages, it's really not that hard. Like just getting past the fact, okay, like this is a class that I have to take every year. You just kind of accept it and move on, and it's not really that hard. And then you get Miss Strickland, who's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah.
I talked to my Camelot partner who was Puerto Rican in Spanish one time. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, kind of going off what Lauren said a second ago, I'm not like getting a minor in Spanish or anything, but an area that has been really helpful in for me is like Lipscomb offers mission trips for their students during the summer. So last year I went on a medical mission trip to Peru. So even though it was focusing on like the medical aspect and like giving me a good experience for medical school, I was also getting to use my Spanish, and that was something that was really helpful for me, and I think it was really helpful for our team too. And then I'm going back again this year, and I think that if I hadn't had Spanish all the way through my senior year, I wouldn't have really known what I was doing there. I mean, my friends that were on the same trip as I was, that had the 2 years that regular students have of Spanish, didn't really remember anything that they learned, and I think having it for the full 7 years really ingrains a lot of things that you won't remember otherwise.
And also,
everyone's so on this question. Even at standard level, I'll just say, like, you retain a lot. You learn a lot about the language and a lot of how to speak it. I didn't continue with it, but now I'm trying to pick it up again. I'm just using that Duolingo app, and I'm kind of surprised how much sticks with you. And you can't, when you're older, it's so much more difficult to learn a language. Like I just tried to learn Czech while living in the country for the last 4 months, and it's so much more difficult than growing up with it a little bit more. And if you've done the middle school program, you've already done it for 5 years. Another 2 more years is really going to help ingrain it, and you'll be able to, even if you don't immediately start using it, you can turn back to it with a fair database and just sort of like work from there in a way that you couldn't have nearly as easily if you started later.
And there's such a huge benefit to knowing at least how to learn another language. So I'm working on Spanish, obviously, but I'm also working on Hebrew and Gaelic. And it's a long story, and Arabic. But like having the basis of like knowing, okay, well, you need to know verbs, you need to know nouns, and knowing like how to approach it, like learning another language is really helpful. So even if like Signal doesn't offer a language you're actually interested in, like just knowing how to learn a language is a gift that keeps on giving.
And also in my courses, I'm vocal music, that's my music major, and knowing Spanish is very helpful in interpreting songs. But aside from that, it's also very helpful in gathering sources for completely unrelated subject areas. Like for my history class, I just happened to start writing an essay about the American Civil War and the role that Spaniards played in making the South stronger potentially, and being able to read old documents written in Spanish, or at least like somewhat understand them, really helped. And that's just like, it's so helpful in such a myriad of ways in history and American government. I wrote an essay about misinterpreters in court cases for my American government class. So like the amount of applications for it is limitless.
I'm working towards my English language learning certificate, so I can teach with English language learners in my classroom. You don't have to know a language to do that, because you have, like, I was just in a school with like majority French, the students, because they're from, oh God, now I'm blanking. Haiti, yeah. Oh my gosh, I just completely blanked. But you know, and you know, I never took French, but like, you know, I still got to learn about it because I know what it's like to approach a language that you don't know much about, and just, you know, kind of could guess because of my Spanish background, because there's a lot of cognates within the languages. And then I was also in a school where there were Spanish students, and they were practicing, you know, just writing narratives, and, you know, in 3rd grade, and they're, you know, I'm just like trying to help her, and she's just trying to think of some word, and she told me it in Spanish, and I could tell her what it was in English because I had some background in Spanish, you know. So just having this language background is, you know, it's richer beyond, you know, like being able to fluently speak in Spanish. You know, you have a way to communicate beyond just one language, which is neat.
It also gives you an appreciation for your own language. At Barry, I'm a lead teacher in our English as a second language program, and I teach at the basic level, so I'm working with students who have no experience with English. And so while my Spanish minor helps me communicate with them in their language, having the approach of learning Spanish helps me turn it all around to teach them English, because I know what worked for me and how I can either apply that to them or change it so that it will work for them.
Great question.
Colleges you considered as you were going through that process?
I will say it confirmed kind of what I want to do. So I came in thinking I wanted to do a STEM field, and so like my mom told me I'm taking HL physics and HL math, and like I don't get a say in that. I was like, well, I guess I'll try it. So, and like those are my favorite classes. I mean, they were the hardest classes I've ever taken, like even after I've gone to college. But like I was like, this is exactly what I want to do. And so like it just confirmed the fact that I wanted to go to a technical institute and do engineering.
And I think that's one of the good things about IB, since you are choosing the courses that you want to take at a higher level. And within those courses, you're choosing areas of subjects that you want to do your research on. Like your IAs, you get to, like for my math IA, I hate math. I was an HL math. I don't know why. But for my math IA, I got to write about bodies decomposing, which is crazy. How does that relate to math? I could tell you if you want to talk. But, but being able to like learn more about yourself within an academic setting, I think really helps you determine what you're going to do later in life. Because I feel like without IB, I wouldn't have the foresight to know I wouldn't know myself enough to know what I want to study in the future. And that's how I knew that the arts and politics were right for me. Yeah.
It definitely led me to Boston. I've lived here my entire life, and you know, I didn't know where I was going to college. I didn't have like a college in mind, and I changed my mind. I was just like, I don't know where I'm going. It was sophomore year, you know, I just finished my NYP project. I did this documentary, and I was like, that's it, I'm done. You know, but you weren't. You're starting a whole new program. But, you know, it really led me to think about having a more broad, going to a bigger city and going to, you know, like a place where people from all over come from. And I don't know, it just really made me want to see something new. If I come back, I come back. But, you know, at least for 4 years, you know, you get to travel a little bit. And I got to go on my first plane rides, you know. It's real fun. So it definitely broadened my scope for where I wanted to go to college.
Yeah, that's for me too. And then I picked my college partially because I knew it had a really good study abroad program, and I knew that I wanted to go and study abroad because I hadn't really ever left Tennessee besides like Michigan, but it's Michigan. So I think really learning about different cultures and different traditions and taking foreign languages and IB really did make me want to go explore a little bit more and kind of just see what was out there, which is what I'm doing right now. So.
I just want to know the difference between, or how they compare IB college credit and dual enrollment credit, and how those are different from one another.
Well, I know that my school, Tulane, doesn't take dual enrollment credit outside of Louisiana. So you cannot get credit for classes that you didn't take at like a community college in Louisiana, whereas they do take IB. So there's like a major difference there.
Mm-hmm. And here they're doing dual enrollment through Chat State, while CSAS is doing dual enrollment through UTC, which may be more transferable. So it really depends on what the college the dual enrollment program is kind of affiliated with. I know it wouldn't have translated to Boston if I'd done dual enrollment. Massachusetts is so different education-wise, and so.
From my experience and like talking to people, if you're going out of state, dual enrollment doesn't transfer well at all. I hope we're saying that right. Okay.
Yeah. Or private, if you're going private either,
yeah.
Any private school.
I think working in the registrar's office at Barry, I see a lot of the transcripts coming in for students who did do dual enrollment. I've actually evaluated a lot of them myself. But really, honestly, I feel like they have a better comparison with IB than AP did. Whereas AP, we have a lot of colleges say, okay, get this score on an AP test, you get this credit. Dual enrollment in IB, I feel like there was a lot more fluidity to work with. Dual enrollment, at least in Barry's case, we will take it from any four-year school, definitely a community college. We look into them a little bit more. But it depends on what you take. So if you go and take a course that, like say in film, and then you go to a school that doesn't have a film department, you're probably not going to get dual enrollment credit for that because they don't have anything to match it up to. But with IB, I think there's less of a problem because all of our core subjects, most colleges have all of that. So you might have an easier time transferring that in than dual enrollment.
What degrees or occupations are you seeking, and what is the most significant academic challenge you've experienced so far?
Let's go down the line
Yeah,
for
go
that.
ahead.
I'm planning on going to law school after I graduate, or, well, kind of. I'm still going to audition for grad school for the arts, but if I don't get into any grad school programs in upper level schools, I figure I'm not good enough to go professional, so then I'll go to law school, which, whatever. And what was the second part of the question?
Academic challenge.
Oh, the greatest academic challenge was definitely my theater class for the diploma program. The amount of essays that we had for that class was ridiculous and insane, but I mean, presenting those to the head of the theater chair at my college is, I think, what got me in, so I think it was worth it.
I'm majoring in mechanical engineering with hopefully a minor in biomedical if I have time. And honestly, my hardest academic challenge so far has been trying to find like experience in like proving to employers that like I have the experience to do stuff. So like I've emailed and talked to like 5 or 6 professors in hopes to get research, and I don't know if any of you guys try to get research, but they're really not looking for freshmen. So like kind of like getting experience and having something to validate and put that on my resume that I can do stuff has definitely been hard, but I've learned a lot from it first semester.
My ultimate goal is to go to vet school, but I'm also considering getting a Master's of Science in Animal Reproduction. But I think the biggest challenge I've faced academically, in IB it was definitely doing HL chemistry, but I think going into college, General Chemistry 1, I already knew everything we were doing in that, and so I breezed through that no problem, whereas a lot of my friends were struggling by week 3 or 4.
So I am a music major, but I'm on a pre-med track. So I think something that went into that decision was the fact that Lipscomb offered really good music scholarships. So that's something I wasn't really planning on. I was planning on being a biology major, but it's definitely something I'm really grateful for now, because I feel like that's part of my life that I didn't really want to just completely drop off because I wanted to go to medical school. So I think that's really cool. The greatest academic challenge I've faced so far has been, I made the decision last year to take organic chemistry over the summer because I was trying to balance like music and science classes during the year, and it just seemed like the best decision to take it during the summer. It was definitely a long struggle, but I think having already been through like a 2-year program and then my whole freshman year of college, I knew that I'd been through lots of difficult things before and difficult classes, and I knew I was going to get through this summer. So even though it was really hard and I thought I was going a little bit crazy, I knew I was going to get through it and I could do it successfully.
I'm at Emmanuel College in Boston, and I'm an education major, and because I'm a little head on credits, I took some higher level education courses this semester. And so I had a 4,000 level ESL course, and I had to do a 10-page lesson plan. I did like Curious George, vocabulary, out the wazoo. It was insane. And I had to present that, and the presenting was the breeze, you know, because I had done so many in IB. And then the next weekend I had a 14-page paper due for religion, and then I had 2 more exams to do, and it was just like, you know, exams are like the hard part of college. It's, sometimes there's like cumulative tests during out the semester that are hard depending on the class, but like I think exams are the exam couple weeks are just like the brutal part of college.
I intend to be an anthropology researcher and professor and whatever else comes with academia, and get my PhD in anthropology and then do research and teach. And I think the biggest academic challenge for me has been the first semester of my sophomore year, because I was taking 19 credits. I was in charge of this huge organization council, so on and so forth, and really being able to balance my credit load, my organization commitments, my commitments my job and religious commitments to the University Hillel, so on and so forth, was one of the most difficult things that I've done. And as I've said, I think IB helped prepare for that.
So I'm doing film, which is a little bit more out there, not as strictly speaking like what people would consider to be mostly academic. But I'll say that as far as the most challenging thing I've had to do academically, every time I have one of those weeks with the finals, it's kind of a whirlwind, somewhere between a whirlwind and a blur. But for me, what was most challenging were the 2 most important things I've done recently, which was one was study abroad with professors at this university that normally only teaches people in their late 20s or early 30s who have worked in the industry. And the other was interning in Hollywood this summer. Both of those kind of went in a different, it wasn't academically difficult. There wasn't a lot of homework or assignments, but it was being able to speak with the professors and the people you were working with on a level of respect, but as a person, and you find that in college a lot of the times. Your professors aren't looking to talk down to you like a teacher would. And I think the IB program, not like all teachers would, sorry, but the IB program sort of helps give teachers and students that relationship more early on. You talk to your teachers as if they were someone you were working with that was above you in the field, or a professor, and they're there to help you and guide you through it, but they're not there to talk down to you. And you learn on a much more individual level. And when you get into the workplace, even if it's not film, even if it's not something that you have to build connections with, you're still going to be looking at a lot of people who want to teach you on a more personal level than what you'd get with a more general studying program in high school. And I think, so IB definitely fostered that for me.
So I'm doing psychology, and I think part of what has been my greatest academic challenge, which isn't necessarily an academic challenge, is figuring out what I want to do in psychology, which I'm still working on, because I think part of the problem was that I'm just interested in all of the different areas. So I did research last year with my professor, my psych professor, in social psychology, which was really tough and just stressful, but it was also one of the best learning experiences that I've had since I've been at college, because we were doing real research and I was working one-on-one with her in her office every day. But I'm sort of balancing right now with, I went to England to take different classes that weren't offered at my small college. So I got to take forensic psychology and psychology of risk and developmental. So I think biggest academic challenge for me has just been sort of figuring out maybe what direction I want to go, because I'm interested in all of them. And then I know I'll probably be in school for the next 15 years. So, yeah.
It's actually really funny.
Okay, I said we try to hold this to an hour, and I know we've gone a little over, but I've also got just a few more questions that were emailed. If I could run through these and maybe get y'all to
From the live stream.
get back with an answer kind of quickly. Did the IB required classes and projects prepare you adequately for the IB exams?
Yes. Practice test.
Were your teachers supportive and appreciative of the time taken to successfully fulfill the requirements for an IB diploma? For example, if an IB project was due, did the teachers lighten up on homework and exams?
Not really.
It definitely depended on the situation.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that there was collaborations that we did not have like all of our tests on one day, but at the same time, just because you have to study a lot for one class doesn't mean you're not going to have to study a lot for another.
And there were assignments that we had for maybe the majority of the semester. So if they assigned it at the beginning and weren't taking it up until the end, they weren't going to give you a break if you didn't have it done until the night before.
It's like college, where there's high expectations of you, but also there's a lot of collaboration and understanding. So you're being held to a high standard, but there's a level of respect and mutual understanding there for the majority of the teachers that I had in IB, I think.
And we'll ask one more from this list. Is there, or was there when you were here, an environment of prestige or respect at SMMHS toward the IB diploma, or do the kids just consider it one more hard thing to do?
I mean, we're on a wall, so our names are going to be there for a long time.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of prestige to it. I have a picture of me going, my name next to it.
Define the question.
I'd say you get, you in a sort of if you want to talk about respect, you get a lot of respect from the other peers that are doing IB. I formed a very large but tight-knit group of friends that were mostly doing the IB program or doing some sort of double enrollment in it. And I would definitely say I wouldn't have had that if we didn't have a program that sort of brought us together like that.
I agree with that, but also some of my best friends from high school were in standard, and it was never really like a weird thing. Like, we ate together every lunch, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, that looks hard," and I'd be like, "Oh yeah, you're doing this. That looks hard too." So, yeah.
Does anybody have a burning question?
Are any of you attending colleges with standard degree fellow students that you had here at Signal Mountain, and what experiences are they having compared to you in terms of the academic challenges?
Oh, I have one, I guess. I don't want to speak on her. I don't know if anyone knows Jordan Nimick. I don't want to name drop her or anything, but she's at Virginia Tech with me, and I think the one thing is, I think IB, I don't want to speak on her, but she came in doing a major that I don't think she really wanted to do and switched to kind of what she was taking her HLs as, and she hasn't taken any classes in it, but she's been talking to people within the major, and it sounds perfect for her. And me and her, we weren't really good friends. We knew each other and talked to each other, during like the 2-year process, but like now that we're at college together, we're definitely a lot more close, I will say.
Okay, just to tag on your questions, in choosing, asking these students to come be on this panel, this really was sort of a random process. Actually, some of you heard me say, I ran into Sheehan at Southern Star this afternoon and said, oh, you're still in town, what are you doing tonight? So, and a couple of these guys weren't asked until earlier this week. We did have plans to have people from some Tennessee schools. Those happened to be the people that had fallen through. We did have plans to have a couple of people who had only done partial IB. But I heard from several people today that one was sick, one had something come up, had to go out of town, those kinds of things. So you kind of, like I said, informal and informative is what we're going for. And these guys have done a phenomenal job. So. In this conversation. And I'd like to thank our film department for their efforts at doing this live streaming.
What was the high number?
I got a text message from the IB coordinator at Uwa High School a few minutes ago saying, they're doing an awesome job. So, and she said,
Are we still
I'm
live?
sitting home on my couch watching. And then finally, I would
That's
like
backwards.
to again
On the flip
thank these guys. They represent our school, our community, their families so well, and we are so very proud of them and what they are working towards and the name they're making for themselves. So thank you guys again.
Good job, guys.
Single Mountain students, enjoy
was about to
the
ask.
snow day tomorrow.
Oh, woo! Yeah.
I'm about to smack down that